right, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. I don't know that I see any of my students here, so thank you. All right, so Sydney Young will get us started today with an overview of the upcoming election in November. Ms. Young is a current political science doctoral candidate at the University of Missouri St. Louis. She holds a Bachelor of Science in Psychology from Missouri State and a Bachelor of Art and a Master of Art in Political Science from UMSL. She has served as the graduate representative for the Associated Student of the University of Missouri, which is called ACLU-MO. It is a nonpartisan and student-led organization. ACLU-MO serves to educate students around political issues, including voter education. She also serves as the social media chair for the Political Science Academy at UMSL, another nonpartisan student organization, and serves as a student representative for the Civic Engagement Coalition. For her work, she has been recognized as the Student Advocate of the Year, recipient of the Excellence in Civil Engagement Award, and a national winner for Student Voting Honor Roll in All In, sorry. Campus Challenge Democracy. She currently works full-time with the American Civil Liberties Union of Missouri while she completes her dissertation. So please help me welcome Sydney Young.
Hi, can you guys hear me? Do I need to be closer? All right, thank you guys for having me. Thank you for the introduction. Like she said, I'm a political science doctoral candidate, and my emphasis area is voting education, voter engagement. That's actually what my dissertation will be on, is how do we get the youth voters 18 to 24 to the polls. So being here and being able to present about just voting rights and education is a dream, so thank you guys for having me. And we'll see if I can figure out this technology. All right, Democracy Days, this is why we're here. I'm Sydney Young. Today we'll just kind of briefly mention what is democracy, what is civic engagement, why you should vote, basic voter information, and some candidate information. And I want this to be interactive. I don't want to just preach to you guys, so I'll be asking some questions for feedback. There's no wrong answer, just want some of your opinions and gauge some of that knowledge you guys already have. So Democracy Days, that's why we're here. The mission of Democracy Days is to examine the history, health, and functioning of democracy in America and abroad. Multi-day forum at St. Charles Community College since 2001. So thank you guys for having me. It's a long-standing tradition, truly an honor to be here. Thank you. So what is democracy? Democracy is a form of government that gives people to the power. And there are different types, such as a direct and representative. So direct is where you kind of just vote and decide and discuss on a policy, and then you make those decisions by majority rule. We have that representative democracy where we vote for politicians to then vote on said policies. So with that, just the basic information of democracy. What does democracy mean to you guys? No wrong answers, just what is it to you guys?
Like everyone agrees, right?
Kind of, you can agree, you don't have to agree, but being able to give your input, that would be democracy. What else does democracy mean to you guys? I should have brought candy. Yeah.
For the people, by the people?
Yes. You, the people, the citizens, are giving their input on what they want to see. Really, really great. With democracy, we'll kind of talk a little bit about civic engagement. So civic engagement basically just means working to make a difference in the civic life of our communities and developing the combination of knowledge, skills, values, and motivation to make that difference. And it means promoting the quality of life in the community through both political and non-political processes. So civic engagement with your communities, this right here is a community. You're a community of students, you're a community of St. Charles community, etc. If you're earning your psych degree, you're in that community, whatever it may be. So, and trying to make differences in that. So here would be a good example of civic engagement. We're trying to make a difference in educating about voter rights, that information before the election in November. So civic engagement has a wide range, like I said, that are political and non-political. This can include political participation, volunteerism, civic education. That civic engagement can also include both paid and unpaid forms of political activism, environmentalism, and community and national service, volunteering, etc. So we kind of learned about what civic engagement is. What do you guys think are some types of civic engagement? And you don't have to raise your hand, you can just shout them out. I work with kids, so I'm really patient. Is voting a type of civic engagement? Yes. What about volunteering at your local neighborhood garden? Yes. These are all types. Let's get the ball rolling. What are some other types of civic engagement? Yes, absolutely. So political participation, that would be voting, like I said, attending a protest, phone banking, canvassing. You guys will be seeing that a lot in the next few weeks. Volunteering at a neighborhood garden, at a food bank, picking up trash. And then civic education. What do we think are examples of civic education?
Learning why it's important to vote.
Yes, exactly. Why I'm here right now. This is a great example of civic education when it comes to civic engagement. Voter education awareness campaigns. So yesterday was National Voter Registration Day. That is a huge civic education, civic engagement activity. Great. So why do we think civic engagement is important? Yeah.
Because without it, democracy wouldn't have people spreads the word.
Exactly. It gives our voices heard. It goes into that democracy. Any other reasons why we think it's important?
So you can learn about your community, what's going on there.
Absolutely. New perspectives, new ideas. Great. So here are a few reasons why civic engagement is important. It can create a more just and equitable society and allow individuals to have a voice in shaping their communities. Exactly what you said, learning about what's going on. Foster a sense of community, promote social justice, and strengthen democracy. Right on the money. You guys are so smart. Love it. And you guys can, with civic engagement, it's important because you can hold elected officials and stakeholders accountable and keep them transparent. If you guys know what's going on, you can go to those board meetings, you can go to those canvassing, you can go to office, they call it office hours, or like have a phone conversation with a politician and give them ideas on the policies you like, what they don't like, and hold them to it. So you said you were gonna vote for this, your record says this. Being civic, you want to have strong civic engagement. It's very important for all of those reasons. Civic engagement, civic education, one of the big pieces of civic engagement is voting. What is voting? You guys, this is easy. You can say it. What's voting?
Researching different candidates.
Yeah, that's a part, being informed before you cast your ballot. So voting can be formal expression of opinion by either individuals, groups. It can also be informal. So, hey, we're going out to dinner and we want to order pizza. We don't know what toppings. That is voting. We're going to have a discussion and we're going to have pepperoni on our pizza. That's voting. Super simple, super informal, but it's still voting. Then you can get into that formal voting where you're like, actually casting a ballot, either for a candidate or a ballot measure or an amendment. So that's what voting is. Can you guys give me examples of when people vote? I just gave you that answer.
November every 4 years.
November, yeah, every 4 years, but not every 4 years. We have local and state too, so we'll have one in November, we'll have one upcoming in April, and then there's also special elections. But even just, like I said, voting with your peers on what pizza toppings, what movie you want to watch. All different types of voting. The big ones that we'll think of are those November presidential elections. Great job. So why should we vote? Yeah,
Because if you don't vote, you're letting other people choose for you.
exactly. You're not getting a say in your democracy. Your views aren't being heard. So voting gives you the power to create positive change for your community. And when you look at voting, it's not just the presidential election every 4 years. You have those state and local, so good examples of those state ones. Your school board, your chief of police, your fire department police, State level, your politicians for the House, the Senate, governor, attorney general, and then at the federal level, like the presidents, your senator, Congress, people like that. And elections impact your everyday life and family. I know sometimes politics can seem abstract, even on that like bigger level, but again, like I just mentioned, you're voting for your school board who is voting on your curriculum, and your teachers who are teaching your children, or while you were in high school, your chief of police, and things like that. Why you should vote? You get to cast your ballot on policies and laws you want to see. You get to choose the candidates you want to see in office that represent your viewpoints. And it fosters civic engagement. It serves as a catalyst for further engagement. Voting is just a step of, all right, I'm going to vote this year, but next year I'm going to vote and phone bank. All right, well now I'm going to vote and phone bank and canvass. Oh, well now I did all this. I might actually want to run for office. So that simple step of educating yourself on the candidates and policies, and then voting can serve to go even further into your civic engagement. So voting eligibility in Missouri. What does it take to be able to cast a ballot in Missouri? Again, make it really easy because I keep it on the screen for you. How old do you have to be? 18 to vote, yes. In Missouri, at 17 and a half before the time of election, you can actually go ahead and pre-register to vote. That way, when your birthday hits and election hasn't came, you're good to go. You don't have to wait until you're exactly 18 to get that registered to vote. For Missouri, you do have to be a U.S. citizen, and you must be a Missouri resident. So we know what it takes to be eligible to vote. Where do we think we can register? Where do we register to vote at? Online. Where else can we register?
Library?
By what?
Library?
Yeah. So online, we can go to the Missouri Secretary of State page. Online, other places like vote.org, local election office, library. You guys can actually register to vote outside here. There's plenty of places. St. Louis County, you can vote, and I also have a link here where you can vote. Go straight to the St. Charles Election Board and vote. But like I said, you'll have something right out here. So once you're done today, register there. And yesterday was actually National Voter Registration Day, so I'm sure there were events on campus. I know there were some at UMSL. But you can register to vote at any of these places and online at any time. When do we think we need to register by? Because this varies by state. So when do we think we need to register? If we wanted to vote in November election, when would we need to register to vote by?
2 weeks before?
2 weeks. That's a good guess. 3? It depends on the state too. So for Missouri, October 9th is going to be that last day. So about a month, at least for Missouri. Another great resource, like I'm going to keep highlighting the Secretary of State page because it's nonpartisan, it's government-led. Really great resource. They actually have the calendar because like I mentioned a few minutes ago, we don't just vote in November, we vote in April, we have special elections, and they have calendars on when you need to register by for each of those elections. Great resource. So we know our voting eligibility, we know when we need to register by, we know where we can register, right out here once we're done. What do you think you need when you go to go cast your vote? Do you need an ID in Missouri? Yes, good job, guys. Do you think your student ID counts? You shook your head no? Good. It used to, not anymore, not currently. This again varies by state, but we're going to stick to Missouri laws that are current. This may change. Do you need an ID to vote in Missouri? And then what IDs are eligible? Yes, we mentioned. So the acceptable forms of voter ID in Missouri are a non-expired driver's license, a military ID or veteran's ID card, and a non-expired United States passport. What happens if you know you're registered to vote and you have the correct ID, but you don't have it on you and you go to cast your ballot? Do you think you can still cast your ballot to vote?
Yes.
Yes. How? Do you know how?
I can't remember, it's just like I don't know, you can cast it, then if everything checks out, then you'll cast that vote.
Yes, you are 100% right. That is called a provisional ballot. Yes, good job. So if you don't have those acceptable forms of ID, you still have voting rights where you can cast your ballot. Cast your ballot, ask for a provisional, and once you cast your ballot, they will check everything later, and then once they show that you have that ID, your ballot will be officially cast. But yes, great work. Provisional ballots. Voting methods. Are there different ways to vote? And if so, what are they? How can you cast a ballot?
Well, in Missouri, it was really great, although we don't have like, places where we can just like drop boxes where we can drop ballots, but you can vote, it's up to 2 or 3 weeks before the regular election, you can go to the election authority and vote there, or you can vote on the day of. So there's lots of opportunities to vote throughout the time period before the election day.
Absolutely, you make it easy. You are right on it. That is exactly correct. So you have to vote in Missouri. You have the option to vote in person on election day. So in St. Louis County, I'm not sure how any of you guys live there if you're solely in St. Charles, but in St. Louis County, you can vote at any polling location. Umsel will be a polling place too. Yeah,
So is that true for this election also? I live in St. County.
it should be.
In 2020, was that the first time you could do that, go to any polling place?
Yes,
And so it's still in place, you can go to any polling place?
yes, it should be. Yes, any polling location. That's not true for every county. So if you're registered in St. Charles,
It's
you
not true for St. Charles County.
Yeah, no, it's not. It's St. Louis. You'll have to go check your polling location, and you can do that by going to vote.org, Secretary of Missouri State page, typing in your address. They will pull up your polling precinct. But if you cannot vote in person on election day, like she said, we have early voting. I can't vote on November 5th, but I might be able to vote next week and cast my ballot. I can do that. Or you can do what's called an absentee ballot, where you would request that on the Secretary of Missouri State page that you want an absentee ballot. They'll mail it to you, you vote it, and then you send it back. So lots of different ways to cast your ballot.
Does that have to be notarized?
I believe so, yes.
If you don't have like a regular, like my mom doesn't have to get it notarized because she is over a certain age. So she can just send in an absentee ballot. But if you're just like, oh, I'm gonna be out of town for work, then you have to have that notarized.
Yes, and there's a lot of resources where they'll help you get that notarized so you can get it sent in, but it's an option. Really, really great. And then if this presentation is sent out, you guys will see the links and resources like to the direct place where you can get more in detail. I could talk about voting for like 17 hours, so I had to condense it a little bit. But yes, really good point. Some of these absentee ballots will need to be notarized. And in some counties, you do have to go to that specific polling location. Voter rights. This is a big one. If you have a felony, do you think you can vote in Missouri?
After a certain time, right?
Yes, and we'll get into that. What about if you need if you need assistance, such as a physical disability or something else? Do you think you can still cast a ballot?
Yes.
You guys are good. If you have a felony, yes, you can still vote. This is a big misconception because in other states, if you have a felony, you're not allowed to vote. Not true in Missouri, with some nuance, with some caveats. You have to complete your probation or parole, and once that is complete and through the courts, then you'll be eligible to vote in elections. That caveat would be if you've been convicted of an election offense, felony or misdemeanor, you would lose that right to vote. But any other felony, once you complete your probation, parole, all that's done, your voter rights are restored. It's very important to know because that's misconceptions again with where other states you don't have that right. Voter rights, you need help. I don't know if you can read this. Like we said, you need help. What are your options? Maybe you can't get to the poll. So we have that 2 weeks where you can vote, no excuse, absentee ballot in person, at your local election authority, and mail-in ballots, things like that. Curbside voting, if you can't physically get into the building or it's hard for you and would add an extra burden, poll workers can bring that ballot to you and help you vote. Accessible voting. So every polling place must have accessible voting systems for individuals with disabilities that'll have visual accessibility, audio ballots, things like that. And then if you have like a permanent physical disability, you may request to be placed on a designated list so that you can automatically mail in that absentee ballot to make it easier. And you can also get personal assistance. So if maybe you're physically limited or it's hard for you to get to the polls, you still have those options. You can still cast your ballot, whether it's absentee, mail-in, curbside voting, accessible voting, and then just getting that personal assistance. Sometimes in some states, people don't want you to cast your ballot, but you have voter rights protections. You should be able to cast your ballot without intimidation or harassment. What do we think would be some types of harassment when you're trying to cast your ballot?
canvassing outside the school?
Yeah, so I think in Missouri it's 25 feet. You're not allowed to campaign outside of the poll from like the door. Other things would be, are you registered to vote? You don't have the right ID. I don't think you can vote. You can't be here. That is intimidation. That is harassment. You are protected from that. They cannot do that. And then if you do encounter some issues and you may not know your rights, there are hotlines that you can call. If you have disability and language assistant, there's resources for that too. But you have the right to cast your ballot. You have the right to cast your ballot without being intimidated or harassed, things like that. All right, so we know how to register, where to register, when to register, how we're going to cast our ballot. How do we know what we're going to vote for? How do we find that out? One is by looking at their campaign websites and watching debates, but where else can we learn about candidates? News. Social media, that's a good one. That's especially popular today. Really easy to get that information out. So there's a lot of great resources, especially in Missouri. League of Women Voters, they always put together like a little candidate pamphlet of all the people running for office. KSDK, someone mentioned the news. Public radio, Post-Dispatch, candidate websites like social media. Tons of places you can get that information, and then always you can go to their direct website. Because you want to know who you're voting for. You want to know what they stand for. Like I mentioned before, yesterday was actually National Voter Registration Day. What is that? It is a nonpartisan civic holiday dedicated to celebrating democracy. They help register people to vote and get that information out there. And that was actually yesterday. I think it was also Constitution Day. But a really cool holiday. We try to do things from a nonpartisan lens. We're not saying, hey, vote this, do this, but here's how you get the information. Here's how you can register to vote. So that was yesterday. We also have upcoming, and I'm sure St. Charles Community College will have events on campus, National Voter Education Week. It is similar to National Voter Registration Day, but it is an open source, nonpartisan voter education campaign, usually held in the first full week of October, and it equips voters with tools and education they need to cast their ballot with confidence and know what they're doing before they go to the polls. It will be on October 7th through 11th of this year. Cool. We're gonna kind of switch it up. Now you have like the basic information of like going to the polls, how to do all of that. Well, what are some of the things on this upcoming ballot? We got Amendment 2, Amendment 3, Amendment 5, Amendment 6, Amendment 7, Prop A, local, state, and federal candidates, and sample ballots should be out soon. So it's going to be a pretty heavy ballot in Missouri, which is great. You can cast your vote, engage in democracy on a bunch of different levels. I'm going to ask, if you guys don't know what these are, it's fine. Anybody have an idea on what Amendment 3 is? Yep. What about Prop A?
Is that the minimum wage?
Yeah, you guys are on it. So we'll kind of go over just a few of these, again, just basic information. And I got this from the Secretary of State page. I'm going to keep highlighting that as a resource. Amendment 3 is the constitutional amendment for abortion. It basically just says establish a right to make decisions about reproductive health, including abortion, contraceptives, without any governmental interference, allow regulation of reproductive health care to improve or maintain public patient, allow abortion to be restricted after fetal viability, except in the case of women.
Okay, well, can you go back?
Yeah.
Because your thing says with any government interference.
Invalid. Yeah, I read it the wrong way also, the first time. That the governmental interference, is that right, presumed invalid?
Yes. Yes.
So we need that.
They do. So that's actually going to be the next slide is fair ballot language. I just read what the bill says. That can be really misleading, especially when there's the campaign for it and the campaign against it, doing different information. So fair ballot language. Fun fact, this fair ballot language actually went to the courts because some of it was misleading and had to be changed. Because we want fair ballot language so people know what they're voting for and what the bill ballot amendment actually means. So as of now, on the Secretary of State page, fair ballot language says that if you vote yes for Amendment 3, it would establish a constitutional right to make decisions about reproductive health care, including abortion and contraceptions like birth control, with any governmental interference of that right presumed invalid, because currently there are governmental laws around abortion in Missouri. allows regulation of reproductive health care to improve or maintain, yada yada, and then a vote no would continue the statutory prohibition of abortion in Missouri.
So fair ballot language doesn't, provide a definition of real viability?
No. Yeah, and this will be, if you guys are really interested in this one, I'm supposed to keep this really basic. Tomorrow, there's going to be a whole presentation solely on Amendment 3.
But when we were talking about voter intimidation earlier, I feel like we should mess you up with the language. That's kind of voter intimidation. I don't understand why that's legal.
Yeah, no, I agree. I feel like it's voter disenfranchisement. She was saying when people or campaigns are giving misleading or false information, that is a type of intimidation. Yeah, it's very frustrating. If you're trying to be informed on the ballot, you don't really know what is true, and I feel like it can be a form of disenfranchisement. Yeah, great point. But this is like the fair ballot language for Amendment 3, and like I said, if you want more and more detail, they're doing a full presentation on it tomorrow. I'm here to just say what's on the ballot in brief, and so you guys know. But it'll be really good tomorrow. Highly recommend it.
Real quick, Paul and I are gonna have the microphone if you guys have questions so that everyone can hear, okay?
Prop A, that is to increase the minimum wage. Adjust the minimum wage based on consumer price index starting in 2027. This is what that Prop A will say. I'm not going to read all of that. You guys can read it, and also this should be sent out. Fair ballot language. All of these amendments or propositions will have that fair ballot language. So if you vote yes for Prop A, it'll say to amend Missouri statutes to increase the state minimum wage beginning January 1st, 2025 to $13.75 an hour. Blah, blah. A vote no, you will not amend Missouri law to make those changes. Amendment 2, this is about like the sports betting. Some states it is legal to sports bet, other states it is not. Amendment 2 is voting to see if that can be legal in Missouri. Fair ballot language says a yes will amend the Missouri Constitution to permit licensed sports wagering by the Gaming Commission. And if you guys want more information on all these two, all of this is taken from the Secretary of State page because they are the ones in charge of like the elections. So they have all the amendments listed where you can read in more detail. I wanted to keep it short and then read that fair ballot language. And you can even read prior ballot and amendments that were on past ballots. And eventually this sample ballot will be on there so you can actually type in your location and know what's going to be on your exact ballot, because my ballot is going to look different from someone else's ballot if they live in St. Charles and I live in St. Louis. We're voting for different representatives. So initiative petition. Anybody know what this is? In Missouri, so we have the initiative petition, and that is how we got some of those things on the ballot, like Amendment 3. That was through the initiative petition process. So again, took this from the Secretary of State page. The initiative petition process gives Missouri citizens the opportunity to directly participate in our democracy. The Secretary of State office is charged with overseeing this process and certifying proposed petitions for the ballot. So we talked about way back in the beginning of the presentation, we have direct democracy and then representative democracy. The IP is kind of like direct. If you don't think the legislators that we voted into office are creating policies we want to see, we can change that by using this initiative petition process of getting things on the ballot that we want to see if it's maybe not moving through the legislator. To do that though, there are a few ways and a few things that you need to do to make sure you qualify. So if you're wanting to have a constitutional change, so like a constitutional change would be Amendment 3, they're actually trying to like amend the Constitution compared to like a proposition where it's not constitutional, just a law, varies a little bit. So if you're proposing statutory changes, you need 5% of legal voters in 6 of the 8 congressional districts. And I put a picture so you guys can see each of the districts. If you want to make constitutional changes, it must be signed by 8% of legal voters in 6 of the 8 congressional districts. The Secretary of State page has a really cool resource reference guide. I have the link on here too. It's like 45 pages. I could do an entire presentation on how the initiative petition works, the history of how it got started, but again, wanted to keep it brief and simple for you guys. So if you wanted to look at that and go by step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, that is included on here. Any questions on what the initiative petition is? Not all states do this, so Missouri is pretty cool that it allows us to have that direct democracy and that direct voice. An initiative petition was really popular in the legislature last year of trying to remove this. It is currently still in place. We still have the initiative petition, but there have been movements to remove it from Missouri. That's neither, not saying I'm here for or against it. That's some of the current things going on politically. We still currently have it, though, I want to be clear. So call to action. Yesterday was National Voter Registration Day, but like I said, you still have until October 9th to vote. So I want you guys to take out your laptops, your phones. Yes, I'm encouraging you guys to get on your phones and update your registration. We can go to vote.org. Oh, it's not doing it. I don't know how to share it on the screen. I'm not using this computer, but you can go to www.vote.org and you can check your registration, update your registration. You can register, see what's on your ballot once those things are posted. And then make a voting plan. Are you going to cast your ballot in person? Do you need to request an absentee ballot? If you don't have transportation but know you want to vote in person, do you have your transportation lined out? Are you going with friends? Make that voting plan. Do you have your IDs ready? I just moved, so I got to find my IDs. Things like that. So vote.org. You can also go to the Secretary of State page, but vote.org is the easiest to type in. And then here's just a bunch of like different resources and organizations. USA.gov, Secretary of State page, I keep highlighting National Voter Registration Day, vote.org, headcount.org, National Voter Education Week, All In Challenge, and St. Charles Election Board. Lots of different resources, lots of different organizations, and all these should be hyperlinked if it's sent out. And you guys can also take a picture if you need to. Like I said, Missouri Secretary of State page is a great resource for Missouri-specific election information where you can see your ballot, register to vote, and you can read in detail those ballot amendments and that fair ballot language. And they also have a bunch of other FAQs. But thank you guys for having me. Questions? I know I gave you a bunch of information.
This is your time to get all of your answers. So don't be shy.
While we're waiting, I have a question, just kind of sort of a question comment. Do you know, because you mentioned driver's licenses. If you've moved, my understanding is that if your driver's license does not have the voting address, they will not count. Is that correct?
I actually do not know that one. I don't want to give false information. The laws have changed so much, so I just... Oh yeah, if you know it, go for it.
Sorry, I didn't need you all that. You're gonna tell it.
Hello, I actually know that response. I literally found out about 2 weeks ago. I am very new from Maryland and I called to say, hey, what can I do? I have not switched my license over, insurance, nothing has been switched over, but I was able to provide them with my information of, where I live now, utility bills and things of that sort. But no, because I did not have an active Missouri license, I would not be able to vote in the state of Missouri.
Would a passport work, or would it show your address though?
My passport still had my Maryland information on it, so unless I go through and change everything to the state of Missouri, so I did have to reach out to Maryland in order to get an absentee ballot.
So even if you had a piece of mail or something that said that you had moved, you still couldn't?
Yes, actually, I sent them all of my documentation. This is where I work. These are my utility bills, things of that sort. No, not at all. I needed to have documentation to state that I officially belong to the state of Missouri now.
And it's important to note too that there are a couple current court cases on voter IDs that may change this in the future. So you get more, if it wins, more IDs would be accepted, but again, that's held up in the court, so not true at this point. But in the courts, should be getting decisions pretty soon. But yes, thank you for answering that.
Yeah, and that's one of my big concerns with photo. I teach politics, so one of my big concerns with photo ID is that if your address is not reflective, if your ID is out of date, it often doesn't get accepted.
Thank you. Any other questions? That was a good one.
How long does it take to get a new driver's license?
Actually, it's really quick. My conflict is that I have property and things in Maryland, so it'd be a lot to make the adjustments immediately. But if I didn't have a bunch of dealings in Maryland, it probably would have been a really quick transaction. I just had other things tied up that I couldn't do it immediately.
So if you have a veteran's ID and not a Missouri ID, would you be?
I believe so, as long as it's not expired. And if they say no, again, that's where you can also do that provisional ballot, why they double check things too. So if you go with your ID and they say, I don't know if this is quite, because the law can be tricky, the laws have been changing, you can still ask for that provisional ballot, and that's what I would recommend. And then they can go and see if that's that acceptable form. But I took the list of voter ID requirements from the Secretary of State page with the current information. That's the great thing about voter ID and voter engagement and education is it's constantly changing and evolving. So I could have this presentation next year and have to change like 12 things. So it's good to stay informed, engage in that civic engagement and education, and keep up with new court cases that come, new policies and legislation that comes out.
You can ask questions about the initiatives too, if you have questions. I mean, there's no anything, fair game.
And like I mentioned, Amendment 3, there'll be a really good presentation on it tomorrow to get more information. Also, the Secretary of State page has those, and if you want to learn more, you can go to the actual campaigns for it. For more Amendment 3, you can go to Missouri Constitutional Freedom and learn, but then you can also go to those outside organizations that may oppose it to see what they're saying. Lots of different ways to be informed on those.
And you all will have access to this PowerPoint on the Democracy Days page with Sydney's presentation. So all those links that she has on there, just to be able to see it a little bit better, will be available to you.
If there's no questions, again, thank you guys for having me. I hope this was informative, and hopefully you took something away from this.
Thank you so much, Sydney, for taking time to do this. We appreciate it.